Counter-Strike Global Offensive, but it's Apex Legends. Apex just released their new season. There's some good stuff there. There is a new agent, or champion, I think they're called, Valkyrie, which essentially is a weird Pharah. Kind of fun to play, to be completely honest. Like her quite a lot. If you have the credits in Apex, maybe you should go back and check her out. I at least enjoy the fact that you can fly around, have some missiles that look dope, right? It's like Gundam style. All that is good. But even more interesting, they launched their arena game mode, which essentially is as close to we will ever get to CSGO in Apex Legends. Let's talk about that. Unbeatable, lovely gamers, as always, my name is Jonal, and before the video starts, like on the video, comment on it, really helps out. I don't make a lot of Apex content. Now that I have a PC that isn't shit, I would love to, so liking, commenting, and potentially subscribing if you want more content like this. It really helps out the channel, really helps giving me a little bit of a milestone or like a feeling for the game. But let's talk about the game mode, Arena. Essentially, it's quite simple. It's not like CS, because if you ever played Counter-Strike, you know how Counter-Strike feels. It's fast TTK, it's a tactical shooter, right? Headshots is king, and it is far more about, there's T side, CT side, you're gonna play around that. There's all these kind of tactics depending on what side you're on. The games are kind of drawn out a little bit, and everything like that does not sound like Apex. The gunplay of CS is incredibly fast in TTK. You had one tap from an AK or a pistol, if you buy the right pistol, or just an op to the body, and you out for that round. You just die. And if you played Apex, you know that Apex is really slow in TTK. When people have armor on, you have to dump multiple magazines into people to want to break their armor, and the second to take him down. So those two games doesn't really cross-reference. Imagine if you push in on, B-size Mirage, and you literally have to mag dump your AK into him just to break his first layer of shields, and then you have to swap to your sidearm or reload your AK and then dump another mag into him. You can imagine, right? If an op takes 3 shots to take someone down, 2 if you land a headshot, it would be crazy. So what they have done is that it is kind of like CS in the case that you get cash every round, you buy weapons, abilities, which is, just like Valorant, the equivalent of a utility in CS, and then you buy some healing resources, so shield batteries and stuff to heal your HP. You can buy some nades if you want. You can upgrade your weapon, so you buy a weapon, and then you can also upgrade it if you want by committing a little bit extra cash to get better attachment, better scope, larger magazine capacities, better barrel mods, so that less recoil, all that goody stuff. And then it's a 3v3 deathmatch, and that is also difference. There's no T or CT, defender, attacker, red team, blue team in this game mode. It is literally 3 people trying to murder 3 other people. The first the 3 wins, and then of course if it is a tie, so if it's 2-2, then you need to win by 2 rounds. So you need to get 4-2 or something similar. If the tiebreakers go on for too long, you get into a sudden death match, and then it's win that 1 round and you're all good. Now that all seems all nice and fine and not really that much, and I think that it's where they add extra stuff that really makes it interesting, and is why I think that some of you guys maybe should take a bit of look at this. So when it comes to how you play the game, it is a bit different from CS. Instead of having bomb sites, you have resources that you fight over to give you an advantage. Again, it's all about killing someone. It's just knock the enemy players, potentially greed them, or just wipe their entire squad to win the round, right? The first team to win by killing the enemy team wins the entire game. So there are resources on the map. There are resource stations, which are these, essentially you go up to them, you interact with them, and they will give money to you and your team for the next round. Claiming these are essential to keeping your economy up and ahead of the opposing side. Compared to CS, you don't get money for kills. And you don't get money for bomb plants, of course, because there aren't any bomb plants. So claiming these resources when both team if you win or lose a round, get the same amount of money. It's all about claiming these resource beacons to keep your economy rolling. Second, there are loot boxes or loot crates or containers, just like in normal Apex, and these contain healing items. They contain the same amount of healing items every time, and this gives you a huge boost when it comes to the fights, both for your economy, because if you can get the healing items here, you save a lot of money. You get at least 2 shield batteries, and those are worth 150 each in the store, and 300 credits is quite a lot in this game. So going to and claiming and fighting over these resource containers can really give you a lot of healing and a lot of sustain. Of course, if you take too much health or your entire team loses too much resources on it, it might not be worth it, and that means that there's a little bit of push and pull there. Are you going to invest a lot of health, resources, abilities into the containers and grab some healing, or are you going to camp it for the opposing side? Is this going to be a stalemate? How are you going to play that out? The last resource is that every round there drops a loot, like a super loot crate. I forgot what they're actually called in a care package. That's I think what they're called in Apex. And this contains 3 weapons. In the beginning of your round, when you're in your shop, you will see what weapons that this will contain. Sometimes there are, really good, like really rare, awesome weapon, like the Kraber, which is, you cannot buy this from the store. You can only get it from the supply drop, and it is essentially one-shot headshots, essentially anyone. It's incredibly powerful bolt-action sniper rifle. Or you can get just a fully upgraded R99, which is an up-close SMG, which saves you a lot of money, because then you don't need to buy an R99 if you're gonna fight for this loot crate. And those resources on the map really shapes like how you're fighting, where you're fighting, and what you're doing. The other part is, of course, the agents, or the champions. Each champion in Apex have different abilities, different passive abilities, and different ultimates. Everyone has their passive. That's just something that you have the entire match for free. You always have your passive, meaning already some champions are arguably better than others. The second thing, you always have your primary abilities, but only for a certain amount of uses. Depending on how good the ability is, you get a equivalent amount. So if it's a really good ability, such as Gibraltar's Dome Shield, which is a giant bubble that does it and no bullets can pass through it, this is of course incredibly powerful, both in Apex but also in this game mode, because of course you can claim resources with it. You can drop it around the loot crate, for example. That way it's difficult for them to shoot you as you guys are picking up your resources. So you get one of those for free every start of every round, and then you can buy another one for 150. Someone like Octane, he has a speed boost as his ability. He gets 3 of them, and they cost 50. So essentially, a cheap ability is 3 times as cheap, or a good ability is 3 times as expensive, or 3 times as much worth than a cheap one. So the same with Grapple Hook for Pathfinder, cost 100. It costs 50, and you get 3 of them at the start of each round. Meanwhile, the radar scan of Bloodhound, which is just an AoE wall hack, cost 150, and you only get 1 of them at each round. Then you get your ultimates. These also cost different. These also have different prices depending on how good they are. And again, this is an investment. Are you investing in more abilities? Are you staying with that 1 that you have, or those 3 that you have? Are you investing those money into healing? For example, are you investing into nades or a better weapon, or upgrading your current weapon? Do you want 2 weapons? That starts to get really expensive if you want to start buying multiple guns. And that is kind of the economy, just that it gets a bit weirder on top of all of this. Because every round, you lose everything. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, you lose everything, which sounds really frustrating, right? So if you invest a lot of money into a good weapon and buy a lot of abilities and a bunch of healing, and you guys just steamroll the enemy team, you don't get to keep that. You lose your weapons, your abilities are reset to whatever you get each round. So again, for example, 1 or 3, depending on how good they are. You don't keep your ultimate if you bought it. You don't keep any of your healing resources. You just lose it all. And then you have to rebuy it. And first, I was kind of frustrated with it, because it's not very fun that you whoop someone's ass and then, you guys just reset it. But I think it's actually really good, because it, 1, adds another layer of depth to this game mode, which I wasn't expecting. That you have to time your economy, you have to think about okay, how much money am I gonna sink in this round into guns and weapons? Am I gonna spend majority of it here now? If so, then are we fighting for those, resource beacons, or are we gonna play it a little bit safer, maybe upgrade one gun to a decent state, buy a little bit of healing, and play for the healing stations? Are we gonna sink a lot of money into weapons and abilities, and don't buy any healing, and hope we get some of the healing stations? What is the game plan? Are we buying like an ultimate and some cheap guns and just running them down without one ultimate? Depends, right? That is the interesting part of this game. There's a lot of depth to it, which I wasn't really expecting, and I think it's actually a really fun game mode. It has CS vibes in the fact that there's a shop to it, but outside of that, I think they have innovated quite a lot. This isn't Valorant, right, which is essentially a carbon copy with extra stuff compared to CS. This is like the CSGO buy menu and everything like that, and then the rest of it is a completely different beast, but you do see the tactical. You still get the movement of Apex, you get the shooting of Apex, but it's all these kind of tactics to it, which kind of keep it well in this genre of balancing an economy while trying to also get wins. There's a bunch of resources on the map that you have to play for, and it creates this really fun environment. And that's kind of where I have my issues with it. Not the fact that it is a fun environment, but there aren't any rank modes. And I do hope they will add this soon. I have no clue why it didn't launch with rank mode, because this game can be kind of boring. One, because I played this, the first time I played it with me and a friend called Cold. And for those who have been long time fan of the channel, I was a Grandmaster player in Overwatch, and Cold was like, if I was a Grandmaster, he was a god. He was like top 500. I think he was almost like 4,700 on his rank. He's probably gonna send me a message and correct me if he sees this, but he's a fucking beast at generally FPS and generally games like this. And me and him, we were just shitting on people. The only time we got a challenge was when one of our teammates left, and we had to 3v2, which at that point is that they are 33% more players than us, and that's a little bit more difficult. That was challenging when we got to play like that. And to be completely honest, he was carrying me all the way. I was sandbagging so hard those games. But outside of that, it's really just like we run over people, we stomp them, and then people start leaving, and then it's like a 1v3 or 2v3, and that's not really that fun. There's no competitive mode, so like we don't really gain anything. There's no reason to really like try hard that much unless you play with friends. And the game mode is mostly fun with friends, and I would think that it would be mostly fun with friends if there was a rank mode where people would actually play around the resources, because a lot of what happens now is just gunfight, and nobody really cares about playing for, resources, meaning if you play for them, you split from your team, and then they might lose their gunfights, or you might get pinched, and it kind of leaves this environment where there's a lot of good underlining systems, but you gotta play with friends, and if you play with friends a lot of time, if you guys are good or decent at FPS, you a lot of time, in my experience, just shit stomp the enemy team, so you don't really have, like, there's no challenge on the resources, right? And that kind of leaves this really great game with a great system, with potential really good matches. We had some matches that was actually kind of interesting, and we were kind of pushing back, and we were fighting over some resources and grabbing some loot boxes and all that kind of stuff. And when we played those and the opposing side could actually meet us and challenge us, that was really fun. But outside of those, it is relatively, kind of shit show, kind of just running around, shooting at people, fighting, win the gunfights, win the game, go next. So I hope that they introduce a rank mode, and if you gotta play this, I advise that you grab a couple of your friends. Apex is completely free. Go and grab a couple of your friends, jump online and try this. If you're a CS player, a veteran in Apex or in Titanfall, or just generally an FPS person, highly recommend this game mode. I think it's actually really fun. I was really skeptical at the beginning when I was playing it, but as this has kind of been dragging on and I've been playing it more and more, I kind of like it more and more, and I like the fact that they wipe my loot every round. I like the fact that that kind of puts an urgency in what I'm buying and where I'm playing with those resources, and the fact that I have to balance those resources out of which champion I'm playing, what weapons I'm running, all of that kind of stuff. And personally, I love it. Again, drop your comments down below if you played this game mode. That helps the algorithm, and it's also really interesting to see what other people's thought on this game mode is. I know I love it. I know there's some people that hate it and doesn't like it. So your comments down below, really appreciate it. Same goes for a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of stuff. As always, guys, my name has been Jonal. Please do take care of yourself. The vaccines are coming. Just hold out a little bit longer. I know it sucks, but please hold out a little bit longer so we can hopefully end this pandemic, you know, once and for all. And yeah, please take care of yourself. Take care of others, of course, really important. But remember to take care of yourself. It's very, very important, especially in these times. I love you guys very, very much. My name has been Jonal, and you guys keep the enemy in your crosshair.